Right now, while you're watching this, there's a war happening that most people will never see. It's fought in the dark corners of the internet, where hackers move through networks like ghosts, stealing secrets that could shift the balance of world power. The question is, who's winning? For over 2 decades, American intelligence agencies and Chinese hacking groups have been locked in a silent battle. The CIA, NSA, and their partners work to protect government secrets and critical infrastructure. On the other side, hacking teams linked to China's government hunt for military plans, spy identities, and technology blueprints. This isn't just spy versus spy drama. The information stolen in these attacks affects millions of ordinary people. Medical records, security clearances, corporate secrets. When hackers breach a database, the damage ripples outward for years. The shadow war began heating up in the early 2000s. Chinese hackers, working in organized units, started targeting American defense contractors and government agencies. They weren't random attacks. They were methodical, patient, and strategic. In 2015, the Office of Personnel Management was breached. Hackers stole personal data on over 21 million federal employees and contractors. Fingerprints, background checks, family information. Everything you'd need to identify spies or blackmail officials. American intelligence called it one of the worst breaches in history. Around the same time, Anthem, a major health insurance company, was hit. The attackers took data on nearly 80 million people. Security researchers traced the methods back to groups with suspected links to Chinese intelligence. The hackers had been inside the network for months before anyone noticed. The CIA wasn't just playing defense. In the mid-2000s, American cyber operators began their own infiltration campaigns. They planted monitoring tools in Chinese networks. They tracked hacking groups back to their source. Sometimes they left behind little surprises: digital tripwires, false information, ways to poison the well. By 2017, tensions were boiling over. The Trump administration accused China's Ministry of State Security of orchestrating the Anthem breach. Criminal charges were filed against suspected hackers, though none were ever arrested. They were safe on Chinese soil. Then came the flip side. In 2020, Chinese media reported that the CIA had been caught hacking Chinese aviation and tech companies. They claimed American operators had stolen research data and planted surveillance tools. The accusations came with screenshots, code snippets, and network logs. Each side accused the other of crossing lines. Each side claimed they were only defending themselves. The truth, as always, was somewhere in the fog of war. Let's talk about what we actually know. The Office of Personnel Management breach was publicly confirmed by the U.S. government. Officials testified before Congress. The stolen data was real. The damage was measured and documented. The Anthem breach was also verified. The company admitted the hack. Security firms like FireEye and Mandiant published technical reports linking the attack patterns to known Chinese hacking groups. These groups had names like APT-1 and Deep Panda. APT stands for Advanced Persistent Threat, which is intelligence speak for state-sponsored hackers. Chinese accusations against the CIA came from state media and cybersecurity firms in China. They released technical evidence showing intrusions into Chinese networks. Some of this evidence matched tools previously leaked from the NSA and CIA, like the Vault 7 documents published by WikiLeaks in 2017. Here's where it gets murky. Attribution in cyberspace is hard. Hackers use fake identities, route attacks through other countries, and steal each other's tools. When China says the CIA did it, they're often right. But sometimes attacks are misattributed. Sometimes hackers impersonate other groups on purpose. The U.S. intelligence community rarely confirms offensive cyber operations. They'll talk about defense, about protecting networks, about responding to threats, but they won't publicly say we hacked this specific target. That's just not how the game is played. Not everyone agrees on the rules of this war. Some experts argue that intelligence gathering is fair game. Espionage has always existed. Nations spy on each other. That's just reality. Others say there's a line between spying and sabotage. Stealing personnel files is one thing. Disrupting critical infrastructure or stealing intellectual property to give your own companies an advantage, that's different. That's economic warfare. China maintains that it's the victim of American aggression. They point to evidence of CIA intrusions. They argue that Western media unfairly blames China while ignoring American cyber operations. They're not entirely wrong about the double standard in coverage. American officials counter that Chinese hacking goes beyond traditional espionage. They say it's industrial-scale theft meant to fast-track China's economic and military development. They point to decades of stolen trade secrets, military designs, and research data. There are also gaps in what we know. How many operations stay secret? How much damage has been done that's never reported? When a company gets hacked, they often negotiate quietly rather than go public. We only see the tip of the iceberg. Behind every breach are real people. The federal employees whose fingerprints were stolen now live with permanent risk. If they work undercover or in sensitive positions, their identities may be compromised forever. Some had to change careers. The Anthem breach affected families, social security numbers, addresses, medical histories. That data can be used for identity theft, fraud, or targeted scams. Some victims are still dealing with consequences a decade later. On the Chinese side, researchers and engineers have reported harassment after American cyber operations exposed their work. Some faced investigation by their own government, suspected of leaking information. The human cost of this war isn't one-sided. Think of cyberspace like the Wild West in the 1800s. There are no sheriffs, no clear laws, and everyone's armed. When two powerful nations decide to shoot it out, innocent bystanders get caught in the crossfire. The bigger issue is escalation. Each side learns from the other. They build better tools. They probe deeper. They take bigger risks. What starts as espionage can quickly spiral into something more dangerous. There's also the question of norms. If major powers can't agree on basic rules, what happens when smaller nations or criminal groups start using the same tactics? We're already seeing it. Ransomware gangs use nation-state techniques. The knowledge spreads. This matters because our lives run on networks now. Power grids, hospitals, banks, water systems. If the cyber war between major powers ever goes kinetic, if it moves from stealing data to destroying infrastructure, the consequences would be catastrophic. So here's what we know for sure. Chinese hacking groups have stolen massive amounts of American data over the past 20 years. American intelligence agencies have run their own operations inside Chinese networks. Both sides have evidence. Both sides have grievances. What we don't know is the full scope. How much remains hidden? How close have we come to real disaster? And most importantly, what happens next? Near term, the war continues. Neither side is backing down. We'll see more breaches, more accusations, more sanctions and indictments that lead nowhere. Confidence level high. This pattern is consistent and shows no signs of stopping. There's a medium chance of some kind of international agreement on cyber norms. The United Nations and other bodies have tried to create frameworks, but enforcement is nearly impossible. Nations can always deny involvement. Confidence level medium. Progress is slow and fragile. The low-probability, high-impact scenario is a major escalation. A cyber attack that causes physical damage or loss of life. That would change everything. It would force governments to treat cyber operations like acts of war. Confidence level low. But the consequences would be severe. The hidden war between the CIA and Chinese hackers isn't ending anytime soon. It's the new normal, a constant, invisible conflict that shapes the world more than most people realize. If you want to understand how this all started, check out the video on the history of cyber warfare and the first digital weapons. It'll give you the full picture of how we got here. This script is based on publicly reported information from government testimonies, cybersecurity research firms, and media investigations. The situation continues to evolve, and new information emerges regularly. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and remember that in the world of cyber warfare, nothing is ever quite as simple as it seems.